if you can wake up every day and do what you love for a living, like you won.
We have a lot of Pittsburghers and Pittsburgh fans, so I found it very ironic to have been born and raised and watch my Pens get thrashed by Mr. Wheeler over here. But really, really excited to have this conversation. We've had some, really amazing athletes that have been able to come out and tell their story. We've had CEOs, we've had leaders from across the community, every size, shape, form, industry, background, and perspective. But, as a team, I'm always excited about the dynamics around how we operate and how we work together and how do we achieve success as a team as opposed to a singular agent. And I use that term a little jokingly, but I think there's this really exciting nexus we've been talking about at the company as more and more we're using AI systems and agents. And one of the things that we talked about during breakfast was, well, it's not just about the technology because it's moving so fast, but it's how we think about the problem, our values, our philosophy, how we look at the problem set as opposed to just using another tool to achieve stuff. But I want to start from the very beginning. So Plymouth, Minnesota, and we were talking, you're in the process of moving back to the hot and sunny Minnesota during the summer and very nice and cozy during the winters. I have a lot of friends in Minnesota, and having been born in Pittsburgh, what compels someone to say, hey, I want to move back home where it's nice and freezing cold? So tell us a little bit about your story growing up in Minnesota.
Yeah, why, there's a couple questions in there. I'll answer the first one by why would you ever move back to Minnesota? Family. My family's there. My parents still are there. My wife's from there. Her family's there. And actually, Winnipeg's colder than Minnesota. So it's actually we lived in Winnipeg for 12 years, so it's actually kind of a step in the warmer direction for us. Um, but outside of that, what Minneapolis is great at, based on my upbringing, it's a great place to raise a family. The infrastructure is great, great public schools. It is the state of hockey. All three of my kids play hockey. So there's a lot of, I think great whys. We moved back there. And it's a great community. For major, pro major sports teams. There's a lot of really cool arts, in the area. And, yeah, I mean, I don't I'm almost afraid to admit this publicly, but, I'm a fan of all their sports teams. The Vikings break my heart every year. Twins are our only champion, but it's almost been in my lifetime, so, it gives us a good reason to complain outside of the weather.
So Minnesota, and we talked about athletes and how not everybody is born with a hockey stick in their hand or a tennis racket. And we were talking about Roger Federer, where it wasn't until actually much later when he grew up that he actually started playing tennis. We've talked about other athletes from that standpoint. Kind of walk us through the journey, but also the family dynamics, because fast forward to today, there are, was it IMG? There's a lot of elite organizations where you basically ship off your kid to like a boarding school and it's a bubble, right? Like everything is about the sport. You have elite coaches. And it reminds me though of Rocky Four, where you have Ivan Drago, who's like in the Soviet Union, and he's got all this elite facility and training and everything. And you got Rocky carrying logs in the middle of the winter. Walk us through kind of like the dynamics of the family and growing up in the mindset around sports at home growing up.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to not moralize this conversation, so I'm gonna make that intention right off the bat. And I'm just gonna try to give you my perspective based on, how I was raised. I was actually raised to be a baseball player. My dad played some minor league baseball. He tells a famous story, which I don't think is true, that he like tied my right hand behind my back, so I try to be a lefty and everything. I can't do anything with my left hand, so I don't think that story's true. But um, I My perspective on all of this, based off, like I said, my upbringing was I played every sport there was under the sun. And I played 3 sports, up until I was a senior in high school. I was drafted into the NHL, before my senior season, so I that kinda made that decision for me. I was gonna be a hockey player. Um, but youth sports today has, to your point, become very specialized very early. Um I think what it does is it can make sports into a job very early. It can make sports, kind of like not what sports are all about, really. It's what you were talking about. It's teamwork. So many valuable lessons, for kids are learned just based off of their experience being an athlete or whatever the venue is. But if you're able to be on a team, that's really what it's all about. Um, I couldn't be a bigger proponent of playing as many things as you can for as long as you can, because what it does is it creates that passion and that energy and that excitement for it. When it was springtime, I got to play baseball. I loved playing baseball. And when it was fall, I got to play football and I loved playing football. And then when it was hockey season, I was so fired up to play hockey, when it was hockey season. What I didn't love was when I had to play hockey in the summer. And I did it because, it's what you do. And I think it's become even more magnified, just kind of how a full-time thing all these sports can be. So now as a father, what I want for my kids is, and this is what I tell my wife, is if we get to the end of whatever their athletic career is and they look back and they say, when I played X sport as a kid, that was like the best memories I have from my childhood. My teammates, the games we won, the games we lost, but like that was like a 10 out of 10 experience. That's a win. If you're in it to make your kid a pro athlete, um, not that there's, it can work, if that's your goal, but I just think that you've kind of lost track of what it's all about. And if if by that process they become a professional athlete, I think you're gonna have an athlete who's passionate, in love with the sport. You and I talked at breakfast, like if you can wake up every day and do what you love for a living, like you won, no matter what that is. And I think that can get lost in sports. I think just based off of kind of how youth sports has commercialized, I would say, over the last number of years.